Good afternoon, Namaskar. Thank you very much, CII, for giving me this opportunity to be before you. And thank you very much again to Uday for your opening remarks. It is indeed a motivating and refreshing exercise to be in front of people, to be in a gathering of people. And of course, there are people virtually joining this meet to have a good conversation on the economy, the global economic assessment and policy making. Given that last 1.5 years, every economy, I don't think there's any one which is left by the grace of God. Every economy has had to find its own way of keeping its people safeguarded from the trouble that was brought in because of the pandemic. And I can say with confidence, particularly with the Indian audience before me, that the leadership, the committed and dedicated leadership, a consultative and responsive leadership has given India the advantage to be able to bring together people even during the suffering, to be motivated enough to wait for the day when they could start, when the unlocking happens, to come back to business. This is not a statement of, confidence and satisfaction that, oh, Indian economy has made it. No, it is more matter of fact statement that people of India, if given the necessary and timely support, can recover, can come out of things, can face the worst, but yet come out also showing that they had a inclusive, caring and supportive side. If government did some things, many more things were done by our own people. By our own people for themselves and for their neighbors, for their own neighborhood. So this period has taught us all, not just the policy makers, but we as Indians, to understand that due to the collective effort, collective understanding effort of people, today we are able to stand up and say we are one of the fastest growing economy in spite of, despite the pandemic. It's to the credit of our people. It's to the credit of each one of you that you somehow held together, kept yourself fairly on the ground and be able to get up when it is required. And I'm quite impressed that the CII, talking at this Global Economic Policy Summit, has given focus on the 5 areas on which all of us will have to think, on which all of us will have to, with a sense of urgency, plan and also take our activities forward. Reviving growth is on the top of it, no doubt. Looking at the way in which jobs are going to work themselves out. And here is something where I would definitely chip in some of the anecdotal details which we were able to gather. So future of jobs definitely today is a matter of discussion. World is not the same again, is very clear. And that is understood by industry, that is understood not just by industry in India, but industry who I meet anywhere else or speak to anywhere else as well. And what shall be the road ahead then? For fiscal and monetary policies is the theme that you've given yourself, the third theme. And you've had central bank chiefs all over the world and even the Reserve Bank of India talking about how they assess the trajectory that the monetary policy is going to take. And on occasions, the Prime Minister himself has clearly spoken about how He looks at our fiscal policy, and you've given me an opportunity for me to talk today, certainly about the fiscal and the monetary policy. Changing the geoeconomics, which is changing continuously and particularly rapidly now, and also the geopolitics. Geopolitics has always had an influence on economic development, on the way in which countries plan their growth and so on, but now all the more. And therefore, I appreciate CII for bringing that as one of the themes, sub-themes that you're going to be talking about. And lastly, uncaging India. I'm a bit uncomfortable with this expression, but never mind, I understand where you are coming from. Yes, uncaging India is a point you may want to talk. Without getting into too much of data or without getting into too much of, we did this, we did that, a list of things, there are ever so many things I can speak about. In the last 1.5 years, periodically, monthly almost, when we've come up with steps for Atmanirbhar Bharat, and also trying to come up with a budget which was initially called as a pandemic budget, but it was actually a budget which aimed at getting people out of the pandemic rather than a pandemic budget. But yes, in a way it is right, because it was planned during the pandemic and even as we were yet to face a second wave about which nobody had an idea. So the point that is important for us to place before ourselves is, globally, all countries are looking at the pandemic with a sense of, all right, now where is the opportunity for us to do things differently so that we are able to build better. In India, you know that we've started looking at it like that from the middle of 2020. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the vaccines coming. And till recently, 120 crore people have already been given vaccines. More than 85% of our population has had at least one dose. And over 42-43% have had both the doses. These are not small numbers, and these are numbers which even countries abroad look with a sense of awe, saying, is this possible to achieve in India? And I say this upfront because it is that fairly extensive coverage which the vaccine campaign achieved that we are today confident even to meet in person or even to see people coming out to revive their shopping interests, to the extent that this time, because people have come out in a big way during the festival season, and the numbers are showing that we have typically in Indian style said, oh, this is revenge shopping, this is not going to survive. This might last now, but it's not sustainable. But all this is all right for us to be with a sense of caution, saying, no, let's not believe that this demand which has come in will be sustainable. Obviously, maybe not sustainable at that level, but the tendency that life can be restored is what is the story which we've seen during the festival season. I've also, and I'm sure many of you all read it as well, and Uday made a reference to that. If only the chip shortage was not there, and if only the shipping liners and container shortage was not there, you'd still have even the passenger cars, two-wheelers, all being sold in a big number. Mobile phones. Demand exists, people want them. But for something which is completely extraneous, nothing to do with Government of India. You saw that those were the areas in which manufacturers could not capitalize on this so-called revenge shopping. So the demand side of it is now able to completely manifest itself. I remember people telling us, oh no, you've not done anything on the demand side. It's all right, you're doing so much for the supply side. And I've always held it as a principle that the compartments in which we would want to put demand side and supply side are fantastic when you're in a classroom situation where you're teaching students as to what constitutes supply side in an economy and what constitutes the demand side. But in the real economy, there's no watertight compartmentalization like that. Things do flow from one to another. And Indian economies proved that right. People do save and have a very precautionary sense of having to have money back in their accounts when things go wrong. And that's what happened early 2020. But gradually, it has started moving out. People have started coming even to the stock markets. Retail investors have moved to the stock markets in a big way. So with this kind of a landscape which is before us, and globally too, economies are realizing today the labor market is on a different mold altogether. If I take all the anecdotal examples which have been given to us, today the labor, whether it is semi-skilled or highly skilled workers, are in a different bargaining position, and which is good for them. And I'm sure many in the industry have already started recognizing that. And this is a change which couldn't have come if life was, as always, normal. And this change therefore tells me that today the value of skill has gone up, even in the minds of our own workers. And when value for skill goes up, you know you are able to determine for yourself as to which is the kind of labor you want, and therefore value them, price them, pay them accordingly. And that is why the government's efforts is to ensure that we tie up with some of the best global institutions to not only impart that kind of required skill for a fast-changing, technology-driven changes, fast-changing world which has technology driving it, and therefore for a world which is going to have technology as the core essence of what you're doing, you need workers to be reflecting that ability. And therefore the technology-driven skilling that you require, each varying for each of the sectors, is where the government is giving quite a lot of time. Even this morning I was happy to have a quick word with the Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, who is also linking with the Skills Minister, and ensuring that we are very quick in being able to get people to come onto the e-Shram portal that we've created for unorganized workers, and make them also to come and join as per the aptitude of the worker. So skilling takes a big, priority in the government's planning. And of course, I don't need to reiterate that the emphasis on infrastructure building, emphasis on technology-driven solutions for speeding up infrastructure, the 3Ds of the world, which can give us in situ answers for technology, whether you're building a road or building mass housing, you need to be scaling up and speeding up. And it is that world which is going to get a lot of traction from the government's policy and from the government's funding initiatives. 34% increase, up to 5.5 lakh crores being spent on infrastructure this year. I'm literally following each of the departments which have high quotient of infrastructure spent. And they're all up to it, they're moving fast, notwithstanding the handicap that they faced during the second wave. And under 134% increase in health infrastructure, going down to the level of the blocks. And equally, even this morning, some of us were discussing how the Bharath Net program is reaching some of the farthest corners of the country. I would want industry to take interest to see what exactly this can offer in terms of the benefits, collateral benefits that you can derive out of this kind of a spread of network in this country. One area again in which we've spent considerable time discussing and enabling is the fintech area. In fact, as a related matter of interest, I'm taking the entire finance ministry team, top secretaries with me, to the GIFT City, because we are rapidly moving the facilities upwards which are available in this onshore but yet offshore facility level of a financial hub in GIFT City. I shall be there the whole day with my officials on the 20th of this month. I look forward there also to meet up with all those multinational banks which have set business, MRO centers which have set business, the sovereign funds which are keen to know about that place. So the spectrum of areas in which the government policy is being carefully tailored and also investments made are all opportunities for Indian economy to lift itself to areas which are very important. I know from the way in which startups have rapidly found funders, private equities, venture capitalists, all of whom gave the capacity and support that is so required for the startups that I have not seen in any other country. Within 12 full months, 36 of them qualifying as unicorns. But that's happened in India. In fact, in that is a message for all in industry, and I'm sure you're seized of it already. The nature of those who are going to be the catalyst of change for the Indian economy, even as big industries, core sector industries continue to do it, the new age industries are going to make a big difference to the Indian economy. And the new age industries are having some or the other thing to do with each one of the core sector industry. However, they've made a platform for themselves. They're completely with technology. I remember much before the corona hit the world, one of the big things that was discussed in Davos was, this is the fourth generation industrial revolution.